This sequence is designed for the liver and gallbladder meridians. So beginning in an easy cross-legged pose, allowing the spine to straighten upwards. And taking a moment to pause, marking that liminal space between the activities of daily life and this opportunity for practice. Allowing a deep in-breath to be drawn into the body. And on the out-breath, softening the face and the shoulders and the body. Arriving in this moment and centering our attention at the body, the heart, and the head-mind. So firstly, we connect with the sensations present in the body, whether it's feeling achy or soft, vibrant or fatigued. Next, we notice what's happening at the heart, the emotional tone, and whether the feelings are pleasant or neutral or unpleasant. Next, we connect with the head-mind, checking in with the thoughts, the images, the attitudes that are with us at the beginning of this practice. Remembering that this stage is not about changing anything, simply about acknowledging what's here. And next we can make our commitment, bringing hands together at the heart, and making that deep wish that from this moment we cultivate mindful awareness of the body, heart and mind, knowing it's for our own deepest well-being and for the benefit of all those whose lives ours touches. At the earlier stages in your Yin practice, you may like to begin with Eye of the Needle pose, lying on the back, with the feet on the earth, the knees bent, with the right ankle placed on top of the left knee, and then drawing the left knee toward the chest, reaching the hands around the shin and interlacing the fingers. Alternatively, you may prefer shoelace pose, sitting on the buttocks with the right knee stacked on top of the left knee and the feet near the hips. Whichever pose you choose, you'll experience a sensation in the inner thigh, stimulating the liver meridian in the groin and pulling the gallbladder meridian as it travels down the outer hip and leg. In shoelace pose, begin with a straight spine and then gently leaning forward just to the place where you start to experience sensation. If you have lower back sensitivity or knee weakness, you can avoid bending forward in this pose, simply sitting up straight with the hands placed on the floor behind or in front of you. If you do decide to fold forward, remain attentive to the kind of sensations you experience, making sure the sensations in this pose are in the buttocks, outer hips, inner groin or lower back, rather than as a pull on the inner knees. If your body does allow you to go all the way forward, then push the elbows down as you come forward to keep the weight back in the hips and light on the knees. And once you've attended to the safety in the pose, then remembering the 3 principles of Yin. Firstly, to explore the edge, the place where sensation holds our attention, yet we can bring an attitude of curiosity, of investigation, rather than a sense of threat or anxiety. The second principle is to become soft in the muscles so that we can access the deeper connective tissue that lines the joints, that coats the muscles, and coats every one of the nerves within the body. We then allow time and gravity to do the work for us. So the Yin practice is one of receptivity, of releasing any form of striving or effort, and just noticing how the body finds its way into a deeper experience of pose. And at the end of 3 minutes, whether you're in eye of the needle or shoelace pose, gently switch around the legs. So in eye of the needle, we'll now take the left ankle on top of the right knee, taking the right hand through the hole in the legs and clasping around the shin or the back of the thigh, gently drawing the knee in towards the chest. In shoelace, we'll cross the left knee over the right knee with the heels near the buttocks, and then moving forward to find the edge, the place where the lower back, the outer hips, or the groin starts to speak to you through the language of sensation. And once we've found an edge that feels doable, interesting, we can then nourish the body through pranic cultivation, inviting the life force, the chi, into the body. So inviting a deep breath from the nostrils all the way down into the belly. And then on the out-breath, feeling that energy swirling, moving through any tighter tissues in the body. A sense of soothing, of moistening, of releasing. Let the in-breath fill you up with energy, and the out-breath move that energy to the places that most need it. Recognizing how energy and blood flow are intimately connected. Medical science has shown that when we bring attention to a particular place in the body, the blood flow increases there. And we use this sensation as a way to train the mind. When there's lack of sensation, we may notice how the mind gets bored and wanders away into thinking. So allow yourself to explore that edge that holds enough sensation to keep you present, yet with an attitude of investigation, of attentiveness. We may notice how the edge changes, how the sensations move through different parts of the body. We also notice our response to increasingly intense sensations. Do we try and block them off, or resist, or ignore? Can we learn to stay present with discomfort, with difficulty? Recognizing that this builds not just physical capacity, but also an emotional resilience. And as our 3 minutes comes to its end, take a long, slow in-breath, a smooth, releasing out-breath, and then maybe a moment of pause. that experience of quietude or tranquility. And then slowly releasing from the pose. If you're in eye of the needle, taking the hands behind the thighs and gently rocking backwards and forwards until you come to a seated pose. From shoelace, we simply lift the torso and then straighten the legs out in front until the deep, achy sensation releases. And then finding your way down onto the belly for our Sphinx pose. Allowing the feet to come slightly apart and bringing the elbows onto the ground just forward of the shoulder line. Placing the hands together. For a more gentle back bend, moving the elbows further away so that the lower ribs carry some of the weight. And if you already have some flexibility in the sacro-lumbar region, then maybe resting the elbows on a blanket to lift you a little higher, increasing the arch of the back bend. Ensuring you don't slump into the shoulders, so gently holding the body upright, whilst relaxing the thighs and the buttocks. Feeling the sensation as the lower back is compressed, blocking the flow of chi. Attending to the in-breath and the out-breath. Drawing the in-breath all the way down into lower tantien, the ground of our being at the belly. Nourishing this yin center, filling up the body with this orb of energy that can then move through to all the parts of the body that need to be nourished, revitalized, and moistened. Remembering that we're working with quite tight, dry tissues in the yin practice, only 6 or 7% moisture content. But if we can draw our attention into those places, we can slowly moisten and then allow a deep stretching feeling to come into those tissues. And over time, we re-establish our range of movement in the joints. We lengthen the fascia that coats the muscles. And while we stay quietly in the Sphinx pose, gently bringing awareness to the liver meridian, which begins at the top of the big toe, running along the inner leg, just above the kidney meridian line. It then enters the torso through the groin, moving through the liver and gallbladder, and into the lungs, up through the throat, into the head, circling the lips and moving into the eyes. So as the body relaxes and the sensation eases, maybe drawing the lower ribs forward a little, lifting them up, so that we increase that stretch through the front of the body, allowing the diaphragm to extend and push energy down into the lower belly. At the same time, imagining that orb of energy not just filling out in front, but also moving into the pit of the belly, behind the sacrum, and expanding from side to side, filling the whole of the lower tantien with a sense of spaciousness, openness. If the lower back feels quite soft, quite open, then you can take part of this practice in seal, straightening the arms and increasing that arc in the spine, increasing the stretch through the front body, and compressing into the sacro-lumbar region. And at the end of 3 minutes, softly lowering down onto the earth, maybe resting one cheek on the ground until you feel the sensations of the lower back beginning to ease. And then moving back into child's pose, with the knees together or hip distance apart, finding the counter pose to coax chi over the back body. Allowing the breath to flow in and out smoothly, bringing nourishment to the tissues that have been stretched. And our next pose is the sleeping swan. So coming up onto hands and knees on the in-breath, bringing the right knee behind the right wrist and the right heel under the pubic bone. Gently stretching the left leg out and behind you and encouraging the left hip to face the floor. You can rest your weight up on your hands for all or part of the time to prevent any stress in the knee. Maybe using a pillow under the buttock to support it and allow it to rest gently downwards. If you feel you have the openness to come down onto the forearms, then push the elbows into the floor to shift your weight back into the hips. One of the principles of this liver sequence is to remain heavy in the hips and light in the knees to prevent any injury in the more fragile knee joint. And once you feel settled in the pose, then taking the opportunity to explore the gallbladder meridian, which begins at the outer corner of the eye, traveling down the lateral side of the body to the outer hip. An internal branch goes through the neck and chest into the liver and gallbladder, running down into the outer knee and then ending at the fourth toe. This sleeping swan pose is an opportunity to deepen the external rotation of the hip, which affects the gallbladder meridian as it runs down the side of the body along the outer hip, and also places pressure on the groin to nourish the liver meridian. As the time continues and the intensity of sensation increases, you can remember to use the breath to soothe the body, drawing energy into the belly, and then on the out-breath, allowing it to flow through the places of intensity and sensation. Imagining that this kindly attention is soothing the aching parts of the body. And at the end of 3 minutes, to come out of the pose, inhaling up onto the hands, and then exhaling back into child's pose, allowing the sensations of sleeping swan to ease and dissolve. When you feel ready for the other side, let the in-breath take you onto hands and knees, and then bringing the left knee forward to the left wrist, stretching the right leg out behind, allowing that right hip to face the earth. Maybe using a pillow under the buttock to support it and allow it to rest gently downwards. And once you feel settled in the pose, choose whether to rest on the hands or to come down onto the forearms. allowing that gentle hand of gravity to press the hips towards the earth, increasing the stretch through the groin and outer hip. And taking the time now to explore the breath, allowing a deep, full inhale to bring space, openness around the hips, and allowing the out-breath to soften and smooth the experience, the sensation. At the end of each out-breath, you may also like to pause, giving the body and mind the opportunity to experience stillness and tranquility. We begin to notice with increasing practice how the mind is able to learn from the body. As we exhale and release tension in the body, the mind too is able to settle down, becoming less involved with the thoughts that move through it. And we start to experience how thoughts are just like the breath. They arise out of nowhere. We experience them, and as long as we don't engage, they just pass away in the same way as an out-breath dissolves back into stillness. So we start to see that thoughts are not who we are. They're just another experience of the mind arising and then passing away. We begin to realize that there's no need to get involved with thoughts. There's no need to suppress them or push them away. We can just allow them to dissolve in their own time, the way that the breath dissolves. A new thought will arise, a new breath will appear. And as the breath releases, the thought too will pass away, as long as we haven't moved into the process of thinking, of engaging with the thought. And so our Yin practice provides this bridge between the physical experience of yoga and the meditative experience of being present with physical sensation, with the feelings of the heart, and the thoughts, ideas, and images that move through the mind in the same way that clouds move through a vast blue sky. And when it's time to release from sleeping swan on the other side, and taking an in-breath, pushing up with the hands, and exhaling back into child's pose. Allowing the sensations to subside, and experiencing a greater sense of awareness, of tranquility, and the more subtle sensations that move within the body. Our next pose is dragonfly, so gently lifting the torso, shifting the seat to one side of the feet, and then bringing the legs out in front. And if you experience tightness in the hamstrings or the lower back, then just elevating the buttocks onto a blanket or a low cushion, and then spreading the legs as wide as they are willing to go. If they do not open very far, it may be more beneficial to bend the knees and place some padding under each of them to lessen the pull on the hamstrings. And this will allow you to ease the body forward a little. So taking a deep breath in, and then on the exhalation, shifting the weight in the hips forward and beginning to allow gravity to bring you down. If the knees feel unstable, you can gently engage the quadriceps part of the time. The hands can be on the floor in front of you, or you can rest on your elbows or supporting yourself with a cushion. And while we rest in Dragonfly, we can contemplate the emotional qualities of the liver meridian. Liver chi is responsible for our easygoing inner environment and is in charge of balancing the emotions. When we feel our liver chi is imbalanced, we have a propensity for irregular emotions, maybe anger or impulsivity, or maybe awkwardness in our social interactions with others. All aspects of resistance are connected with liver chi dysfunction, from minor frustration like annoyance or irritation to the more extreme experiences of rage. If we find we're chronically angry, it may be that we're overstressing the liver chi. And when the liver chi is not functioning correctly, we often find ourselves getting angry or easily upset. It works both ways. In terms of mental qualities, liver chi is connected with our ability to make appropriate connections, or to make plans and put them into action. Liver chi health is shown by our ability to evaluate a situation and then behave skillfully in our speech and actions. The essential feature of liver chi health is flexibility and the ability to change and adapt when the need arises. And it's time now to lift up and out of Dragonfly, bending the knees so that you can lower one vertebrae at a time onto the back in order to finish with our Shavasana, our corpse pose, drawing shoulder blades down the back, and then either lying with the palms facing upwards or letting them rest on the abdomen so that we can get a sense of the body as it breathes in and out. Having pulled and pressured the tissues in the body and coaxed chi along the liver and gallbladder meridians, it's now time to allow the body to rest fully, encouraging the natural healing response in the body. This organic psychophysical response within us flushes out unusable physical pollutants as well as mental distractions, whilst pulsing in rejuvenating energy and a natural sense of relaxation and wakefulness. Resting in Shavasana for as long as you have, recognizing the receptive qualities cultivated in this yin pose, yet also acknowledging the yang mind, fully awake and aware in this present moment. And as the practice comes to its completion, bringing movement to the toes and the fingers, maybe reaching the arms up and overhead for a deep stretch and a yawn, and then allowing one knee and the other to come into the chest, giving yourself a soothing hug, a sense of being cared for. Rolling to one side now and coming into a cross-legged pose, maybe sitting on the cushion or a blanket, with the hands resting gently on the knees and the spine lengthening upwards. And we complete every practice with a dedication, with an acknowledgement that when we practice, we're cultivating beneficial energy, which we can then offer out, either to a particular individual who's going through difficulties, or a broader sense of offering to all beings in ever-widening circles, allowing the vibrations from the sound of the bell to carry our heartfelt wishes to whoever most needs it. Namaste.